Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. This is the Sikh History Series podcast, episode number 10. The most battle-hardened and Jungi of them all, Baba Tara Singh Ji Nihang Singh. Baba Tara Singh Ji was one of the Khalsa Panth's greatest ever warriors and saints. He was a true Sikh of the Guru and a character larger than life. And I will never in my life be able to do justice to this remarkable Gursikh. Even if I were to live 1,000 lifetimes, and in each one I were to spend all my time speaking of the valor, the bravery, courage, humility, seva, spirituality and devout greatness of this Gursikh, I would then not even come close to scratching the surface of the magnitude of who this Khalsa warrior was. A Puran Mahapurush Brahmgyani and a battle-hardened veteran Akali Nihang Singh Warrior of the Guru Khalsa Panth. A Singh who took Amrit from the hands of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj themselves, someone who fought valiantly in the battles of Anandpur Sahib, fought fearlessly in the battles of Chapparchiri alongside Banda Singh Bahadur and Jathedar Singh Sahib Baba Binod Singh Ji, the first Jathedar of Buddha Dal. Babaji was on the front line fighting fearlessly when the Singhs took over Sirhind and the whole city was torn to the ground. Babaji was a warrior through and through, one of the best. He had always fought on the front line in every battle, fighting in all the battles of Banda Singh Bahadur. He was so fearless in the battlefield that it was said that even death feared to approach Baba Tara Singh Ji. Death was scared of Baba Tara Singh. Babaji was always ready to fight for righteousness. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji Pangu writes about Babaji, Hati tapi jatvan rahet, vah rahe so changi, neel bastar tan saje tan shastar jangi. Babaji was a battle-hardened, war-hardy veteran warrior, greatly respected by all and rightfully so. They were saintly and wise, and many people sought their Sangat, help and advice. They were chaste and kept a virtuous way of life and a solid rahit. He always wore the colour blue, the colour of the Khalsa. As referenced in the Vara of Bhai Gurdas Ji, in the 41st Var, Bhai Gurdas Singh explains, when Amrit was made, Singhs were ordered by Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, the father of the Khalsa, to wear blue. And in the Bani of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, in a Bani called Ugardanti, Guruji tells us, Jagay Singh Jode Tare Neel Pesa, the warrior Singh shall awaken and rise clothed in the colour of blue. And even today the Akali Nihang Singh Khalsa clothe themselves in blue. Their Nishan Sahib battle standards are blue, as per the hukum of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. In this way, Baba Tara Singh Ji Nihang was loyal to every bachan and word of Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. He also clothed himself in blue and wore a blue chola and damala, and he was always armed to the teeth. He kept on his body Jungi Shastar, tried and tested war-ready weapons, Teg, Talwar, Khanda, Pesh, Kabish, Kard, Tal, Command Krora, Gorj, Tabar, Barsha, Khanjar, Sarblomala, swords, daggers and knives of all types, armour-piercing weapons, razor-sharp tipped spears, ball and chains, maces, wooden clubs, whips, battle axes, and on his damalla, razor-sharp chakra, kards, chantora and sanjog, mini daggers and knives, half-moon and double-edged sword emblems of the Khalsa Panth, steel wire and chainmail protecting against sword blows and bullets. And the damalla could protect against bullets. I myself personally know a Nihang Singh from Punjab that was shot in the head, but because of his damalla, because of the chantora, the steel wire and iron shastra in his damalla, he survived. The bullet hit the shastra and got lodged inside his damalla, and his damalla saved his life. And there are accounts from the British and reports from World War I written by British generals who witnessed Sikh soldiers in the First World War whom were fighting on the front line in the trenches. In the evening, when they'd open their large turbans, they say bullets would fall to the ground from the shots they had taken in the upper part of their head, which would have otherwise killed them, but due to their large turbans they survived. And in this way, Baba Tara Singh Ji also wore a large Jungi damalla covered in shastar. Babaji kept their kamarkasa, their waist battle cloth, tied 24 hours a day. They were always ready to fight, to defend and give their life at any moment. Babaji was a man of his word. 18 of 24 hours in a day, Babaji would be reading Gurbani or meditating. Babaji had a deep intercourse and relationship and dialogue with Bani. Babaji would always be doing seva, farming, serving the Singhs of the Khalsa Panth, serving the horses of the Khalsa Panth, teaching the Puchangi, hooded cobra, young Singhs, Shastra Vidya, and working countless hours in the Guru's langar and serving those in need. Throughout all the seva, they would always focus on the Guru's charan and kept the shabad on their lips while still contemplating righteous warfare on their mind. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji tells us, Tan jiyo tehe ko jag mein mukte har chit mein judd bichare. Blessed are those in this world who have the name of God on their tongues and lips while contemplating righteous warfare with their minds. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji Pangu writes about Babaji, Dangaiye meh prathama ustariye naam ginai. Out of all the Laraki Jujaru fighters, out of all the guerrilla warfare warriors of the Khalsa Panth, Baba Tara Singh Ji, Nihang Singh, was known as the #1 foremost warrior. He was a Singh not afraid of trouble. He was at home in the battlefield. Jaat Got Singhan ki Danga, Danga in Hite Manga. Our very profession, our caste and creed is guerrilla warfare and righteous Dharamjud. And this is all we ask for from the Guru. And if there was a fight in the local area, he would always invite it to his home so he could partake, and he would resolve all issues in the local area. Babaji would go out and look for a fight. Such was his demeanour. He lived with his head in the palm of his hand, and he was not afraid to die. Kehe dangyo hum kimtare, dango hamari jaat. He would never desist from a fight, since fighting and righteous war was systematically built into the Khalsa. How can we resist a fight? And how can we step back in the battlefield? How can we fear battle and war? For battle and righteous warfare is our creed. This is our profession. Dange khatar hum kiye, Sri Satguru Ji aap. For guerrilla warfare against the enemy, the Khalsa was created. The Khalsa had been ordained to be ferocious and fierce warriors, but always for a just cause, always for righteousness, and always for Dharam. By the divine will of this great Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, this was part and parcel of a Khalsa warrior, and the Guru himself instilled this in us. Dange hi te payog Patshahi. The Khalsa would attain sovereignty, kingdomship and freedom through fighting and warfare. Dange hi te hog cease lie. And through fighting and battle alone would we be able to sacrifice our heads. Only warriors live to make such sacrifices, and there is no bigger sacrifice than giving your life for your brothers, for your Guru, for those you love. Bin dange ko puche na baat. Without our righteous warfare and fighting against the tyrants, without us standing up to those who plunder, oppress, rape, kill and murder, we are something. Without this, without bringing justice to these evil doers, we are nothing, and no one would even ask about us. Hum dange machavo ko lak baat. Over everything we choose this way of life. 100,000 times we would choose this way of life again and again, to fight for truth and honour and the protection of the masses, to wage righteous warfare. This is our everything. Babaji was a warrior. Obeying the Guru's hukum, he had joined Jathedar Baba Binod Singh Ji and Banda Singh Bahadur and fought in every single jang on the front line. He fought valiantly in Sirhind, and he came to great acclaim as the superior warrior and servant of the Guru. People told stories of his bravery in those battles. Everybody knew who Baba Tara Singh Ji was. After the shaheedi of Banda Singh Bahadur and many other Gursikhs at that same time, There was a small period of time, roughly 9 years, which passed in relative peace before things change. The Mughal Sarkar at the time gave the Tat Khalsa free roam of Punjab. It's your land, live free, farm, have langar, do as you please. Just don't wage guerrilla warfare on us. Let's live in peace. They gave Jagira land to many influential Singhs. They wanted to keep the Singhs at peace. They wanted the Singhs to leave behind their warrior ways. Jathedar Baba Tara Singh Ji had settled in his bend and made a bunga, small tower encampment outside his bend. Babaji was from a bend called Vaan, so Babaji was affectionately known as Baba Tara Singh Ji Vaan. Bend Vaan was adjoining another bend called Dal. Both bends were often referred to together as Dalwan, and these bends are in the Majha area of Punjab past Taran Sahib. Baba Tara Singh Ji was one of the Singhs who disliked the current time they were living in because there was no war and no battles. The Khalsa was made to fight, and Babaji would dream of battle, as in battle they could fight and attain shaheedi. His lifetime was all fighting and being at war, and he could not get away from it. Even in a seemingly peaceful time, he would always be in the middle of a situation and conflict, ready to draw his sword. Agents of Mughals trembled at his powerful speech and voice. He would strike fear in the heart of the Mughal government agents who granted the land and would bring taxes to give to them. Baba Tara Singh Ji would say, "These lands are already ours. Who are you to say what is ours and what is yours? Everything belongs to Akal Purkh. And who are these Mughals to bring me money and taxes? We only take which our Guru gives us." Babaji would never accept the money of the Mughals, nor would he receive their taxpayers, nor would he make any. He lived a free life. He would always keep a band of 5 to 10 Laraku Jijaru Nihang Singh Warriors with him at all times, whom all had immense prem and pyar between them and for the Guru. They passed their days reading Bani, training Shastra Vidya and doing seva. Sangat from far and wide brought issues or their troubles to Babaji, and Babaji would take care of them all. If a Singh came from having a fight or confrontation with the Mughals, Baba Tara Singh Ji would happily look after him and treat him well, give him shelter and feed him langar. And sometimes people would come complaining, "Singhs did this or Singhs did that, they're fighting and they're attacking the Mughals." And Babaji would reply, "This is their job to do that, to be rebels, Bhagya Fauja." The Singhs were born to confront the oppressors and stand up for the downtrodden. It is impossible, absolutely impossible for us to roll over or bend the knee. Because Baba Tara Singh Ji read so much Gurbani and did so much seva, he had a direct connection with the Guru, and he spoke directly with Vaheguru. The Mukvak, the Bani of the Guru, was the most beloved to such Singhs, and they lived and died by the Shabad. On the road to Amritsar, from Faridkot after Harike River, there was a bend called Nasera. Sahib Rai Panno was the Chaudhary and the Sarpanch of this village. He was a very egotistical, Hankari landowner. He had close ties with the Mughals, and he would harass and bully the people of this village. He would purposefully set his large, beautiful stallion horses to roam in the Garib, the poor Sikh farmers' fields, and the horses would eat up all their crops and damage their crops and plants belonging to the poor Sikh farmers of this village. The two Garib poor farmers who farmed this land got really upset and fed up that the horses were constantly and consistently damaging their crops. So they humbly and respectfully went to Sahib Rai Chaudhary. With folded hands, they pleaded with him, "We are poor farmers with young children and elderly family members. We work the land and farm honestly to earn our bread and feed our families and children. But recently your horses have been eating all our crops and damaging our ability to make ends meet and earn a living. We are struggling to feed our families now. Please, we humbly plead that you tie your horses up and not let them roam into our fields. This would help greatly and keep us able to provide for our family and our children and our elderly. Please tie up your horses." The Hankari Chaudhary Rai Pannu replied, "You want me to tie my horses up, my beautiful horses, for the sake of your pathetic plot of land and your Sikh families? Oh, okay, I'll tie my horses up. I'll tell you how. I will cut your hair and your beards and the hair of your family members, and I will make a rope out of that long hair, that long gaze of yours, and that's how I'll tie my horses up, by cutting your hair and beards." Hearing this, the Singhs and their families were infuriated and extremely upset. Hearing about this beadabi and insult of the beloved gaze of our Guru Sahib Saroop, a Sikh cannot help but feel infuriated. The Singhs walked away and left. Those two Singhs felt upset and at an extreme loss. Their elderly family members and young children live in this village. If they didn't, they would have killed Chaudhary Rai there and then, without a second thought. But doing this now would put their families in danger. And feeling dukhi and upset and in pain, they walk to the next local bend. There, they speak to two Nihang Singhs Fauja, who they come across, Baba Baghel Singh and Baba Amar Singh. Hearing this upsetting story and feeling the pain of the poor, Greeb Sikh farmers, the two Nihang Singhs told the farmers not to worry, we'll take care of it. That very night, under the cover of darkness, the two Nihang Singhs, Baba Baghel Singh and Baba Amar Singh, do Lutmar. They steal the horses. They go into the village and take and steal those two stallion horses. The two Nihang Singhs then travel to a neighbouring bend where they meet an associate Nihang Singh brother of theirs, Bhai Lakmeer Singh Sandhu. Bhai Lakmeer Singh Ji takes the horses and he sells them on. He sells them to the Maharaja of Patiala, Allah Singh, and he gets a good price for these stallion horses, whom are thoroughbreds. Baba Baghel Singh, Amar Singh and Lakmeer Singh never kept a penny of this money for themselves. They put all the maya into the Guru's langar. The money gained was put into the langar of Baba Tara Singh Ji at his bunga in Pend Vaan. In these times, the Singhs were not lalchi, greedy for money or fame or anything. Their dharam was the most important thing to them. And in the morning, Chaudhary Sahib Rai Pannu wakes up and sees that his horses have been robbed and is greatly angered. He goes out and he hires Koji, the very best detectives and trackers from across the land, to find out who stole his beautiful horses. And with them there was a small battalion of men, and they go out searching and investigating. Baghel Singh and Amar Singh were the thieves, and Lakmeer Singh Sandhu was the accomplice. The three Singh warriors now take refuge at the bunga of Baba Tara Singh Ji Nihang. Chaudhary Sahib Rai Pannu, his men, the detectives, trackers and bodyguards, arrive at the bend of Baba Tara Singh Ji, tracking down the whole story of how the horses got stolen, and they track down the Singhs. With great hankar and ego, they ride up to the bunga of Babaji and shout out, "Hand over those dirty thieves, or we will go to Lahore and report you. And even when the army comes, these thieves will run for their lives, and you will be in trouble and you will suffer." Baba Tara Singh Ji, coming out the bunga, speaks out, "These Singhs are not thieves, they are my brothers, and they are warriors, and they have committed a righteous act. You are the thief. You are the bully and the coward who torments the poor. You coward, get out of here. You ride here in great ego, expecting to put fear in us. Who do you think we are? You come here and expect me to hand over my brothers? We live by a code of loyalty and honour, something that you know nothing about. And we will not run nor hide. We will fight to the last breath and to the last drop of blood. We stand here with our chests out. Go, run to Lahore. And if Zakaria's forces come, they will never forget what happens here, nor who we are." Sahib Rai Chaudhary retreats and rides directly to Patti, the local police station. And he complains to the Mughals there that Baba Tara Singh Ji is looking after the thieves, and the thieves who stole his horses are all at this bunga in Pendvan. The Hakam Jafar Beg, the high-ranking Mughal officer there, is infuriated. This is his basically an embarrassment to him. How dare these Singhs act in such a way? He asks where these Singhs are, and Sahib Rai Chaudhary tells him everything. He mentions how Baba Tara Singh Ji resides in Pend Dalwan, and he has one small bunga, and it only has 2 rooms, one darbar and one langar. He tells how Babaji has a max of 10 Singhs with him, armed with spears and talwars, swords, or handheld weapons, how they have no firearms between them. He mentions how some of the Singhs and some of the people staying there are unarmed, like elderly sadhus, amongst them who will run at the first sign of trouble. Hakam Jafar Beg then gathers his forces, 80 foot soldiers, 25 horsemen, with Hakam himself leading them, a total force of 105 men. He sets off to make a surprise attack during the night. In the early hours of the morning, they plan to attack and massacre the Singhs at the bunga while they sleep. They set off on this nighttime ambush attack. At Pendvan, the Singhs, being followers of the Guru's Rayat, were awake in the early hours of the morning, meditating and doing their Nitnem. Baba Baghel Singh Ji, whom on completing his Nitnem, heads off to the fields and the forest area to answer the call of nature and relieve himself. Fully armed as the Guru Singhs always are, talwar by his side and a barsha spear in his hand, and a sarblo garva, a heavy iron cauldron full of water for washing himself, in the other hand, he sets off. About half a kilometre from the bunga he's walking, and he spots the Mughal forces of Hakam Jafar Beg walking towards the bunga. He sees they are making their way towards the bunga to launch a surprise attack on the Singhs, and Baba Baghel Singh Ji thinks of sprinting back to the bunga to warn the other Singhs, but then he thinks, if I run to tell the Singhs the Mughal forces are coming, the Singhs may think I ran out of fear and retreated from the fight, and I can't let that happen, so I shall engage the enemy and charge the enemy here and now. The warning will come from my battle, the screams of these Mughals as I chop through them. That will be the warning sign to my fellow Singhs. And Baba Baghel Singh Ji calls out to the Mughal battalion of 105. He challenges them to a fight. Sahib Rai Chaudhary recognizes the voice of Baba Baghel Singh and says, "That's him, that's one of them, get him, kill him, tie him up." Baba Baghel Singh charges, sprinting full speed into the 105 strong force of Jafar Beg. He swings his Sarblo Garba iron cauldron and throws it with such great force and velocity that it hits a horseman. It connects with great power in the Mughal's face, knocking him off his horse, smashing his helmet, caving his head in, and sending him instantly into the afterworld. Baba Baghel Singh Ji then breaks through the armed Mughal forces. He breaks through the Mughal battalion, slashing and hacking his way through the Mughal ranks as he moves through them like a hot knife through butter. Just when they think they have him surrounded, he again switches on them, moving like a panther, gliding through their ranks, untouched but cutting them down at will. His Benthara footwork is superior to the Mughals as he dances through them, cutting angles and misaligning their strikes while landing his own. They begin shooting at him, and like a hungry tiger, he pounces upon them. The Mughal forces could not step back or keep track of his movements because he was so rapid. His turns and strikes were agile, and his nimble movements kept them at bay. The Mughals end up shooting each other, unable to pin down the Khalsa warrior. Hakam's nephew, a cavalry horse warrior, was killed by Baghel Singh. His head was plucked from his body and then used as a projectile weapon by Baghel Singh, throwing it at another horseman. Two of Hakam Jafar Beg's nephew and his 2 brothers were killed by Baghel Singh in this conflict. One Singh was wreaking havoc and causing great tamasha and drama on the battlefield. He himself, Jafar Beg, was wounded by this single Nihang Singh warrior. Hearing the numerous gunshots, Baba Tara Singh Ji and the other Singhs sprint towards the sound of gunfire, knowing what was going on, that a battle was commencing, and Baghel Singh was in the middle of it. Baghel Singh in the middle of this battle, gets shot in the thigh, causing a great wound, bleeding profusely. His pounce and his bentra and his footwork, his movements are greatly reduced, and then he is shot to bits. Many, many bullets strike his body as he falls forwards, facing the enemy in the battlefield. Hakim Jafar Beg flees the battlefield, his men picking up the bodies of his family members, his brothers and nephews. After stopping at a close bend to regain composure, his plan is to head straight to Lahore to cry in pain to Governor Zakaria Khan. Jafar Beg expected it to be easy. He expected to massacre the Singhs at the Bunga. He expected to have this all done before breakfast, but little did he know. Little did he know that he would come across the Babbar Sher of Guru Gobind Singh, Baba Baghel Singh. Singhs who were born and bred to fight for justice, a breed of warrior like none before, warriors who were cut from a different cloth. The Singhs get there to see Baba Baghel Singh Ji attain shaheedi. They see him being shot to bits, and they see the Mughals fleeing and running any which way they can, chopping up those who remain. The battle is over. A few hours later, at the Bunga of Baba Tara Singh Ji, the Singhs performed the Antam Sanskar of their brother Baba Baghel Singh. And many people come from the local area and surrounding areas. They all come to Babaji and say, Fateh Hogi, you are victorious in this battle. You defeated and humiliated the Mughals. Now you must leave, as they will come in great numbers. You should hide out for a few months, because they will come in a huge army and you Singhs are small in number. You should all go on the run and hide out in the jungles or the mountains. Some of those present were saying things like, why should you be killed now? Let's go on the run. Let's run and hide and save our lives. Babaji, Baba Tara Singh Ji replies, I have never put value or pyar on my own life, and never will I. I was born to give shaheedi and serve the Panth. I will not lose this opportunity and let it slip from my hands. This is what we ask the true Guru for, this fighting chance for shaheedi. I live to fulfill the words of my Guru, and these words, this Bani is more beloved to me than my own life, and they direct me to do shaheedi and give shaheedi. It is our duty to uphold the Guru's words and prophecies. Jab aava ki aud nidan bane, atahiran mein tab jooj maro. Atahiran mein tab jooj maro. When my moment comes, when the end of my life comes, may I die fighting valiantly and with great bravery in the field of battle, facing the enemy. When your time comes to die, be not like those hearts who are filled with the fear of death. So when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Instead, sing your death song and die like a hero going home. For Singhs, shaheedi and death is a great honour. The Singhs were not scared of death. They just saw it as a change of clothes. The soul will shed its mortal frame, and this Singh can go home to his Guru and his brothers. Many of the beloved Sangat were pleading with the Singhs and Babaji to go on the run. Baba Tara Singh Ji, being a great Gursikh and with absolute firm resolve, takes a Hukamnama from a Pothi Sahib. The Hukamnama, the divine order from the Guru, was the following Shabad. Savaiya Jo kahun kal te paj ke bachiyat, to keh kunt kahu paj jaya, aage hun kal tere as gajat, shajat hai jeh tenis ayya. ऐसो ना कह गयो कोई, सो दावर जाए उपाव सो काव बचैया, जाते ना छूटिए मूर कहूँ, हसता की ना क्यों शरणागत जैया. And this Shabad tells us in a Savaiya, if one could escape death by taking flight, then which direction should one choose for fleeing? When death is looming large overhead wherever one goes, how can one run back from that very looming death? No one has ever devised any such technique which one could exploit to escape death's fatal blow. When nothing avails, oh foolish being, why don't you smilingly submit before death and laugh while dying? In times of struggle, we always turn to the Guru to show us the path. The Guru is our everything, and Babaji had an intimate relationship with Gurbani. He lived and died for Gurbani, and the Bani was their Guru. Babaji, on hearing this Hukamnama, understood what their path was, and he calls all the Singhs present together, and he calls all the Sevadar who are staying at the Bunga together, and he tells them, those of you here who love the Guru's bhajan, the Guru's words, and wish to attain shaheedi, stay here. The others may leave. If you value your lives or are attached to your houses or families, run now while you have time, for tomorrow you shall not have time. For tomorrow here a great battle shall rage, and the earth shall be turned red with blood. Those in love with the Guru stood firm and stayed with Babaji, knowing that certain death was on its way, and Babaji did vichar. The weak have left, and being low in numbers and wanted to share this great opportunity with his beloved brothers, Babaji sends out messengers with letters to call his fellow veteran Nihang Singh Warriors to take part in this battle and to attain shaheedi, which they all longed for. Singhs whom had fought alongside Babaji in the past, firm Singhs, good friends and brothers of Babaji, war brothers who fought and spilt blood together, Singhs who ate and lived together and fought on the front line shoulder to shoulder, Singhs that vowed to live and die together side by side. The time to live up their lives and live up to their word had come. He was calling the Singhs who said to Babaji, we want to die by your side. When you leave Babaji for Sachkhand, we are going to come with you. And the message went out to all the Singhs, and they received them with great happiness and excitement. Baba Tara Singh Ji called upon two of his brothers, Vasawa Singh and Kaur Singh. And from Jalai Bend, Guru Har Gobind Sahib once visited this bend. Two Singhs came from this bend, Samund Singh and Chab Singh, originally from Lahore, Multani Sikh, lived close, and they also came to heed the call. From Kerala Bend, Sura Singh presented himself before Babaji, ready for battle. Lakmeer Singh Sandhu, who was the accomplice who sold the horse to Maharaja Allah Singh of Patiala, was already present, and he presents himself before Babaji, ready to die. And from Purana Pind, two Singhs of Sandhu. Purana Pind was the same Pind as Bota Singh and Garja Singh, and so from this Pind, Allah Singh and Gurbaksh Singh both stepped forward. And from Pind Rattoke, Bhim Singh and Badal Singh, doing ardas, left everything behind and came to join Babaji. Baba Maj Singh Gill from Madrana Pind came to join the band of Khalsa warriors. Hatha Singh Chung arrived also, ready to give his head and sacrifice with his brothers. Baba Balaka Singh from Sange Pind made his way to Babaji's Bunga. Jodh Singh from Narawal Pind also came armed, ready to fight. Pakor Singh and Rasal Singh, originally from Peshawar, also came with great excitement for the battle ahead. Two Singhs from Karbat Pind also came. Amar Singh was also present there. He had stole the horses along with Baba Baghel Singh, who had already attained shaheedi. And Amar Singh stated to Babaji, I will quickly follow in my brother's footsteps and fight viciously and violently on the battlefield and give my shaheedi. All the Singhs brought their weapons with them, ready for battle, ready to sacrifice everything, and ready to lay down their lives. All the Singhs together, ready to take on the Mughal hordes. As the Singhs gathered ready, the war preparations began. The Nihang Singh Fauja prepared to make their last stand. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji Pangu goes on to explain how the Singhs are getting prepared for battle. A ranthamma is planted in the ground. This was a huge wooden slab or huge wooden pole, and it was planted and dug into the ground, and it stood tall standing from the earth. And this is a nishani of Jang, planted into the ground. This is where the Singhs would make their final stand. It was a sign to indicate that from this point we shall not step 1 foot back. And it also acts as a marker in the battlefield. If a warrior were to get separated from his battalion, he would fight his way back to the Ranthamma, where he could find his brothers, he could find extra weapons, spare spears and swords in case his own got damaged, extra ammunition and arrows, water and medical supplies. You see, things like this we've forgotten and lost because we've moved away from our martial heritage and history. The Singhs go on preparing for battle. They count their weapons and sharpen them one last time. The Singhs then do a chatanga, chatka. A mature goat is killed with one clean strike. They take its skin and stretch it out and make a new nagara, a Khalsa battle drum, and they begin to beat it, a signal that they are ready for war, a sign of rebellion, that we care for nothing now, we are ready to die, ready to fight. The Nishan Sahib and Nagara hold a great place in the Sikh Panth. The Nishan Sahib is the flag and the battle standard of the Khalsa. The Nagara is the battle drum, reminding us that we are a warrior Qaum, a rebellious Qaum, a Baghi Qaum, who bow to no one and ask for nobody's permission. We are a Qaum, sovereign and free. And all 22 of the Singhs get together and remember Kalgidar Pitaji, Sri Guru Gobind Singh. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji Pangu further goes on to explain how they all get together, sit and read Jangi Juddhamai Bani, the Birasi warrior spirited Bani of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj, and reciting and singing the words of the Guru loudly. They do an ardas together to Guruji, that may we never falter in our Jang and our Dharam. May we stand strong in the face of terror and represent Sikhi well as warriors and as servants of the true Guru. On the other side, the Mughal side, Jafar Beg arrives at Zakaria Khan's court with the dead bodies of his brothers and nephews, crying and wailing and screaming. Hearing what had happened and hearing the Singhs' names, Nawab Zakaria Khan loses it. We are tired of killing them and they keep coming. They don't finish. We need to eradicate them from the face of this earth. The head court Qaji, a senior advisor, speaks out. You see, these Singhs are very tricky beings. They are demons. Demons like Raktbij. They have some sort of blessing. The more their blood is spilt, the more of them rise and multiply. And the Qaji goes on to give his advice. Let's not kill them there, but instead go and capture them and bring them here to Lahore. Let's torture them and kill them in a method that they will not bleed. Kill them in the method of Sajai Yasa, our special technique and method of torture and killing without shedding blood. This was the same as when Jahangir ordered the Sajai Yasa torture and shaheedi of Sahib Sri Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. It was this same torture method of not spilling blood. And in this way the Qaji ordered for the capture of the Singhs and bringing them here to Lahore, where all the Mughals were gathered. A bloodied and battered Mughal soldier who was present in the court speaks up. Qaji Saab has suggested an excellent idea and theory of killing these Singhs. Why don't you send the Qaji with us and he can tie up the Singhs and bring them here in chains? He can capture them. Turning to the Qaji, he says, Qaji, you sit here and give your nice views, but you sleep here in comfort in your silk sheets while we have to go and face these Singhs in the battlefield. And we know firsthand the difficulties of facing them in war. They are absolutely ferocious. Have you ever seen the Singhs? They are wildling warriors. They're a different breed. You think you can just capture them? One of them alone charged our fully armed forces of 105 men and cut through our forces like a tiger playing with sheep. These things are crazy. Qaji Saab, you have never seen your brothers killed in front of your eyes by these things, nor have you picked up the Shamshir sword to fight against them, so just you shut your mouth. Don't speak here, you don't understand what we're going through. Gaji Saab is basted and he's embarrassed in the court, and he shuts up and just stands to a side. Zakaria Khan, in anger, fuming, states, "Go quick and kill the Singhs." He calls forward the great warrior Morman Khan, and with him he sends 2,200 fully armed, armed to the teeth horsemen, experienced battle-proven warriors. He also gives them 40 small cannons packed onto camels, and 5 fully armoured war elephants, and 5 large massive cannons transported on chariots. And straight away they leave for battle, and they leave Lahore, a strong army. 2,200 horsemen, 40 small camels with small cannons, 5 war elephants and 5 large cannons and chariots. A Lahori Sikh who lived in Lahore sees this and quickly gets on his horse and rides fast as a messenger. He rides fast, speeding through the city and the jungles, trying to reach Baba Tara Singh Ji. Riding non-stop at great pace, he gets to Babaji and says, "Babaji, you are few, they are too many. You shall not survive this onslaught. The Mughal forces are coming. Leave and save yourselves, please. They have set off and they are on the way. A whole army approaches. You have one night, they will be here in the morning and you will be surrounded." Tara Singh Ji Babaji pats this Sikh on the back. He thanks him for the pyar and the concerns, but explains, "We are the sons of Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. We never run. This battle will be glorious, and in it we shall sacrifice our lives." Morman Khan has already left to fight. With his great force with him, he is riding fast to catch the Singhs off guard. He wanted to attack the Singhs at night, catch the 22 by surprise and blow them to bits. In darkness of night, the Mughal forces travelled to the local vicinity of Baba Tara Singh Ji's Bend, and there they're met and confronted by a local landowner, Commander Uppal Jat. And he approaches the forces and he tells them, "I'll lead you to the bend, I'll take you." And he purposefully takes them the wrong way and he takes them towards the Dal bend. You see, Dal and Vaan bend are both joined together, and he takes them to the opposite side, the bend adjoining Babaji's bend. He does this to buy time. And in that meantime, Commander Uppal Jat sends one of his trusted people to warn Babaji. Doing so, he tells Babaji, "It's just a moment of time, a matter of time in which you can save your life. Please, Baba Tara Singh Ji, Nihang Singh Ji, why lose your life by not vicharing this moment?" And Babaji responds, and he laughs and he says, "Shabash, you rode so quickly to me to give me this message, and you have acted out of love for the Panth, and we will forever be thankful for that, and we will love you for this. You acted as our brother. Thank you for this, and you have given wise advice and true advice." But the Singhs respond, "But this is not us. We are warriors." And besides, the people of the bend will say, "Baba Tara Singh Ji, you used to walk around here with your big damala and your shastar and your swords and spears, but when the Mughal armies came, you ran away. We will not let this happen. We will not let a stain remain on Singh name. But we really thank you for your concerns. We're cut different. We play a different game. We long for this moment. To face the tyrant enemy in battle is our ardas, it's our dream. And we welcome Taran Jud, we welcome Shaheedi." On the other side, in Dal Bend, the villagers come out to meet the army. And they approach the army and say, "Why have you brought forces to our village? We are loyal to the Mughals. We pay extra taxes without being forced. We are obedient. We are your citizens. No Singhs or rebels remain here. No one to steal your horses or cause any trouble. We are just normal villagers." And as the villagers are talking to the Mughal generals, they hear the sound of the Khalsa Nagara sounding. The jolt, the beat of the Nagara thunders through the night, and the Mughal forces, hearing this rebellious sound of the Khalsa Nagara in these Amrit Vela hours, know that the Singhs are elsewhere, the Singhs are close by. The Singhs, they are ready, are finishing their Amrit Vela Divan, They have spent their whole night doing kirtan and reading Bani and doing ardas to Guru Sahib. The Mughals realise they are in the wrong place and they start riding at pace towards Vaan End, the other side. The Mughals know the Singhs at the other side of the village and they make haste towards there. Out of the 2,200 horsemen in Morman Khan's forces, one of them has love for Babaji, and he breaks from the forces and gallops fast to get to Babaji before any of the other forces could. And he gets to Babaji sprinting fast, out of breath, and he shouts to Babaji, "Babaji, I have come to warn you. You are my friend. Get out of here. You only have minutes." And Tara Singh Ji responds to the Pathan, "Shabash, you are a friend. In the time of need, you did what you could to help with your wish to save us. But no, today we will stand and today we will sacrifice." And then the Mughal on his horse gallops back to not be caught off guard. And it is the Amrit Vela hours of the morning. The Singhs have been getting ready, doing Ishnan, Datan. Somewhere, some are sitting down reading Bani, others are standing, cleaning their Shastar, practicing their pentre that they were used in the battle. And Babaji, Baba Tara Singh Ji, was doing seva of the Singhs, fetching water from the big well in a big, heavy iron Sarablo Garva cauldron. And this water was used and being used all night to give the Singhs Ishnan, for the horses to have water and for the Singhs to drink. With lots of prem and sharda, he was doing this seva all night. He was quenching the Singhs first and giving them jal for Ishnan. Even moments before battle, he was still doing this seva, still selflessly doing seva. And today the Singhs said to Babaji, earlier on they said to him, "Babaji, you have done more than enough seva. You have done seva of the Singhs your whole life. From a child you did seva in Anandpur Sahib. When Maharaj Dashmesh Pita was here, you were serving the Guru and serving the Khalsa Fauja then. You served the horses then and the Singhs and the Langar. You did seva in the Jangs before and during Banda Singh Bahadur's reign. Day and night you did seva. You fought in many Jangs. You served the Singhs relentlessly day and night during those times, serving and cooking langar, gathering firewood, digging trenches, fetching water, tending to the injured and the shaheed Singhs, looking after your horses and doing the antam sanskar of the Singhs who were shaheed. Even today, right now, you're doing seva. All your life, all you have done is serve the Panth. Let us serve you today. Let us do some seva." These were the conversations that were happening the nights, just hours before jung, moments before battle. This is how the Singhs were talking to each other. Let us make our bodies pure by using them to do seva of a true kasa. Let our hands and bodies become pavitr, pure, serving you, Babaji. And Baba Tara Singh Ji responds, "Your bodies will become pavitr by fighting in battle." Seva does make your body pavitr, that is true. But today the Shastra will make your bodies pavitr. Deha pavitr tan Shastra lagai. Your bodies will become pavitr each time they are struck by weapons. And becoming shaheed, the doors of Sachkhand shall open for you. In this way, Baba Tara Singh Ji continued their seva. He was coming back from the well with another Garva Gagar, Sarblo cauldron full of water, when he heard the horses and the drums of the Mughals approaching close. And hearing this in great happiness, he rips a war cry, a jakara, and all the Singhs get ready and armed and pull out their swords. Whomever wants to run, do so now, for the time of shaheedi and the time of sacrifice is upon us. Grab your Shastra Singho and come out, coming to the battlefield, coming to the Madan, and now it's time to fight. Today we shall not take any shelter. We shall stand flush in the middle of the battlefield and we shall fight. Hearing this, all 22 of the Singhs gather with their kamar kase tightly wound. They come into the battlefield with swords, spears and all handheld weapons, armed with many weapons of different types, and they let off jakare battle cries in the battlefield, and they start to beat the Nagara with all their might. The Mughals beat their drum and the Singhs beat their Nagara. Beating their Nagara with all their might, the Singhs get ready and letting off a Khalsa Jakara, a Sikh warrior battle cry. The Singhs do a halla, a battle charge, and they charge the Mughal forces, shastra in hand, sprinting fast into battle at full speed. Bulaka Singh sprints fast and he breaks ahead of all the other Singhs, sprinting fast. He's the first out of all the Singhs in the battle charge. He fearlessly and skillfully runs through the Mughal ranks, chopping off the heads of 7 or 8 Mughals almost immediately as he breaks through their ranks, speeding past them. A Mughal sniper shoots him down, shooting him flush in the chest with a razor-sharp arrow. He falls in the thick of battle, and in this jang, he is the first of all the Singhs to give shaheedi. The rest of the Singhs arriving in the battle start massacring the Mughals, chopping them to pieces, piling up the dead bodies of the Mughal hordes. The Singh in this battlefield now hold a strict line to avoid any chance of the Mughals flanking them and surrounding them, catching them off guard. The Singhs stand shoulder to shoulder and fight as a unit, a highly refined killing machine. Waves upon waves of the Mughals are now pouncing upon the Singhs, and the Singhs are sending them retreating after smashing their faces in. Many Mughal soldiers are killed here along with their horses. There's a big mess on the battlefield, with horses retreating and getting mixed up with the Mughal foot soldiers. They are all now in some type of confusion, and they start attacking and fighting each other. The darkness of the night has not helped either, and the smoke from the muskets and the guns has made it even more impossible to see. The Mughals are shooting their own soldiers and they're fighting their own men in confusion. The crowded battlefield is detrimental to them, and they're being trampled and squashed by their own horses and war elephants, unable to wield their weapons. The Singhs are continuing to smash them and chop them down, skillfully cutting those down who dare to attack and step to the Singhs. In this bloody battlefield, many Mughals have been killed and a few Singhs have given shaheedi. As one Singh is shaheed, another Singh steps forward to take his place in the battle line. There are dead bodies of Singhs, Mughals and horses all over the place. The remaining horses cannot enter the battlefield, as now they are unable to step forward because they are trampling the bodies of other dead horses. And now the Mughals and the horses have to trample over and climb over the heaps of dead bodies to get to the Singhs. The floor itself has become muddy with all the blood. The ground is soaked in puddles of blood from the horses and the Singhs and the dead Mughals, and the Singhs are fighting them, cutting them down. The horses are falling in the field as they are being kicked by other horses. Warriors on both sides have become exhausted and the fighting is starting to slow down. The Mughals are forced and they back up a bit to create range in order to kill and shoot Singhs dead, because in close range they are no match for the Khalsa warriors. So they back off a bit to create distance so they can shoot the Singhs dead using their muskets, arrows and large cannons and guns. They shoot at the Singhs and they make many of the Singhs shaheed in this volley of shots. However, the Singhs stand strong, not stepping back 1 foot and unflinching in the volleys of arrows and musket fire, many of them being shot and wounded. Those shot with arrows would snap off the shaft of the arrow and they'd throw it to the ground. And after the volley of bullets and cannon fire and arrows, Morman Khan charges with a battalion of Mughal troops, and with him he has Takki Beg, the second in command of the Mughal forces. And he charges at the Singhs in great ego, screaming and shouting "Kill, kill" as he enters the battlefield. He's a great fighter and a very egotistical warrior, and he comes forward and he shouts for Tara Singh. He shouts for Baba Tara Singh, "Where are you? Come and fight me." And Baba Tara Singh takes up the challenge and steps forward. He even dares Takki Beg to strike first, and Takki Beg jumps forward on his horse and he shoots an arrow at Babaji. Baba Tara Singh Ji skillfully evades the arrow by angling off the line of fire slightly at the last millisecond, and the arrow skims Babaji's Parlani's the Mullah. Baba Tara Singh responds by pouncing like a hungry tiger, and he grabs hold of the reins of Takki Beg's horse. He manhandles the horse, swinging it and pulling it to one side. Babaji then jumps up and shoves his Tega sword, the pipla of his Tega sword, in the mouth of the fully armed Takki Beg. Takki Beg screams out in excruciating pain, crying in distress loudly and screaming in a high-pitched voice. The next senior ranking warrior in Morman Khan's army in great gussa and anger charges forward on a war elephant. He pushes forward to trample the Singhs with his war elephant. He is a great archer that would fire 2 arrows on one draw of the bow and is shooting at the Singhs. He thought he would destroy this handful of Singhs left in a single charge. He thought they would earn many rewards in this attack. With only 5 to 10 Singhs left in the battle, he was shooting at them with his razor sharp arrows, attacking and shooting with great velocity and aggression and skill. As the elephant comes close to the Singhs, Bhima Singh pounces like a tiger and he jumps up onto the elephant with a mighty leap, pulling down on its ear and forcing the elephant to kneel down. You see, Bhima Singh was a skilled warrior in controlling elephants. He knew what to do, how to get it to kneel, points on the ears to press on to make it to do this. He had fought and controlled elephants in the past many times, so he was a very experienced warrior, making the elephant kneel. He then attacks the elephant's commander who piloted the elephant, the Mughal who was sitting just behind the elephant's head. He strikes down on that Mughal, and that Mughal in defense puts up his Ankas weapon in defense. And this is the weapon used to control the elephant. As the Singh's talwar hits the Ankas, the Singh's talwar breaks. Bhima Singh then, even with half a talwar, still fights on, and he punches that Mughal with the knuckle guard of the talwar, punching him over and over and over in his face to a bloody pulp. He then hacks off the head of that Mughal and throws it to the ground. Bhima Singh now has taken control of the elephant. Baba Tara Singh, seeing this, steps forward and he shouts to his brother Baba Lakbir Singh. And he says to Baba Lakbir Singh, as a child, you would jump over 2 or 3 water buffaloes when you were only a child in training. Now jump on this Mughal war elephant and take that Mughal general's head off. Lakbir Singh then looks at the other war elephant and he pounces forward like a warrior. And as he does, he says to Babaji, I was hoping for this seva. Now I have Agya of the Jathadar. Watch this. Senghor, watch this. Watch the drama I cause. Lakbir Singh now jumps up with a barsha in hand and he attacks the Mughal general. And in midair, he pounces. He evades the enemy strike and drives his spear through the Mughal shoulder, who's on the other elephant. Now other 2 Singhs rush forward to take care of the Mughals who are surrounding the Hathi and fighting and protecting the Hathi while Lakbir Singh did his thing. Lakbir Singh pounces on the Hathi and with his tigger he chops off the Mughal general's head that's there. Now Lakbir Singh and Bhima Singh both have full control of 2 Mughal war elephants, and Lakbir Singh laughs to the other Singhs. In the middle of a battlefield, the Singhs are laughing and talking to each other and say, now look, we have 2 war elephants of the Mughals and we're not going to give them back. Baba Tara Singh smiles and he laughs and he says to them, the Khalsa shall have many thousands of war elephants. We shall give out Hathia like Prashad. When the Khalsa has Raj, we will give a Hathia out to the Greeb. What is this one little Hathi, this one little war elephant to us? We shall give thousands of them out. This is nothing to us. And after this event, the Mughal forces are starting to lose hope. A handful of Singhs were destroying and butchering the Mughal forces, capturing 2 of their elephants, massacring many of their horses and their armies. Many of the Mughals start to flee the battlefield. Only very few Singhs now are remaining alive, and the Mughals are still terrified of them. Morman Khan now calls 2 of his generals from UP. Now these 2 are hired, expensive, the top of the top warriors, Mansaram and Dayaram, and they step into the battlefield. The Singhs stood in the middle of the battlefield and the 2 Mughal generals stepped forward in great ego. Warriors who were expensive and famed as being the best of the best. Baba Tara Singh signals to the other Singhs, I'll take care of this. Babaji steps forward with his khanda in hand and he takes on both of these warriors himself at once, outmaneuvering them, outskilling them, and then jatkaing them both, chopping both of their heads off, picking up their decapitated heads and throwing them at Morman Khan and the rest of the Mughal forces. And their Mughal forces are now terrorized. Seeing such great warriors, they are shook. Many of them turn and run, others shaking, unable to move. But slowly now, the sun is rising. Visibility has vastly improved, and the Mughals can see there are only a few Singhs left. They turn and see that we've got them outnumbered, and they look and see there are only a few Singhs standing in the battlefield. Now doing this, and because they've got a distance, they fire upon the Singhs in great number. They fire hundreds of rounds from a distance, shooting many hundreds of rifle shots and arrows, shooting the 40 war cannons and firing the large war cannons all at once. However many Mughals remain alive, they were all shooting and firing at the 4 Singhs who remained. The remaining Singhs, Baba Tara Singh Ji, Baba Bhima Singh Ji, Baba Amar Singh Ji and Baba Lakmeer Singh Ji. All 4 who are being shot at scream and let off battle cries, jekare, and as they do, they charge the Mughal forces, weapons in hand, ready to fight. And charging the Mughal forces, they are shot to bits through the cannonballs, the arrows, the bullets, the smaller cannonballs. They are shot to bits and they all attain shaheedi in one final battle charge, running at the Mughals. The Singhs took the shots from the cannons, the arrows and the guns in their faces and their chests and their legs and arms. They never took them in the back, and they did not wince nor turn away in the battle. Once all the Singhs were shaheed, the Mughals shot at them again and again. Morman Khan then ordered and himself stepped forward, and they cut off the heads of all of the 22 warrior Singhs. They loaded all the Singhs' heads into a cart, and Morman Khan was the one who took this cart of the 22 Singhs' heads to Zakaria Khan. Thus, Baba Tara Singh Ji and his 21 companions attained shaheedi, massacring nearly all the Mughal army who came to fight them. Of 2,200, only a few hundred remained alive. The Singhs had fulfilled the words of the Guru. Sura so pehchaniye jo lare deen ke het, purja purja kat mare, kabhu na shade khet. Purja purja kat mare, kabhu na shade khet. He alone is recognized as a true warrior who fights in the defense and for the sake of dharam and righteousness. He may be cut apart, hacked to pieces, but he will never leave the battlefield. He will never leave the battlefield. And the Singhs proved their worth. None of them ran. They all fought to their last breath and to their last drop of blood. All 22 Singhs were shaheed. Sikhi Kesa swasa nal nibahi. With each breath and each case, each hair, they looked after the honour of Sikhi. This took place in 1725, 17 years after Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj left for Sachkhand, 9 years after the Shaheedi of Banda Singh Bahadur. These Singhs kept the word of the Guru. This was a great Karam. This great tale of bravery spread through the whole Panth. Bhai Mani Singh Ji and Jathedar Baba Darbara Singh Ji heard this, and then they organised the Panth into the Dal Khalsa, knowing that the times ahead were going to be hard and that they would have to fight and organise. Bhai Ratan Singh Ji, who heard this from those who witnessed these events firsthand, finishes this sakhi by writing, Dohora Tan Tan Un Singhan Ke Jin Kar Sakha Tej Pran Rehe Naam Thir Karam Ka Hai Jaga Avan Jaan. Praise be to those devout Sikhs, those devout Singhs of the Khalsa Panth, whom accomplished such a legendary deed, sacrificing their lives till eternity with their great deeds, survive and last in this otherwise fleeting world of change and flux. These Singhs and their glory shall live forever. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.